So, my friends, we continue to monitor the events happening in Ukraine, Russia, and the news, and I want to start right away with the best news. Biden has signed the aid package for Ukraine. It's a good day for America and Europe. I have just signed a law regarding a national security package approved by the House of Representatives and the Senate. This will make America safer. This will make the world safer, ensuring American leadership. Everyone knows that. This will help our partners defend themselves. This is an investment in our security. I want to do this again and again. I think Putin wanted to crush NATO's resolve and the resolve of the USA. He has failed once again. America stands by our friends. We stand against dictocrats. We don't bow to anyone, especially not to Putin. If Putin decides to seize Ukraine as the next step, Russian forces might attack one of our allies. And we are all well aware that it would then be necessary to invoke Article 5 of NATO. If Putin attacks our NATO ally the way he is attacking now, if it comes to Ukraine, we have no other choice but to help them. That's why we're urgently supporting Ukraine right now, to prevent Putin from pulling the United States into war in Europe. Zelensky thanked him for the new package. Today, President Biden signed the support package approved by Congress. For the support, particularly Ukrainian, we have made it through a 6-month path. Ignore what anyone else says. We are getting the support we need. We need it to continue protecting lives from Russian attacks. These days, we have been working as actively as possible with our American friends at all levels in order to swiftly fill this package from the United States with the exact weaponry our soldiers need, from ATACMS and artillery, from anti-tank weapons and missiles for HIMARS to the necessary air defense and equipment. I am grateful to President Biden, Congress, and all Americans who feel it is necessary to knock the ground out from under Putin, not to conquer him, and only then will there actually be fewer threats to freedom. My friends and the Russians are already starting to threaten further bombings of Ukraine. In terms of our response to the Ukrainians, if the current one doesn't seem convincing to you, then what would be convincing? Some sort of blanket bombing? At the very least, continuing to demolish Ukraine's energy infrastructure. They've put things on hold once more. 300 kilometers away are Belgorod, Kursk, Bryansk, Voronezh, Sevastopol, Oryol, Lipetsk, Donetsk, Luhansk, Rostov-on-Don. It's a huge part of our country that the Ukrainians can now reach, I'm telling you right now. Despite the fact that American sources are reporting that the weapons will be, it's pretty gratifying to see the sour faces of Russian propaganda. But my friends, don't ignore the air raid warnings. The war is ongoing. Peskov is mightily pissed off and threatening the expansion of a buffer zone in Ukraine, though he appears to forget that they failed to get as far as Kupyansk in their winter offensive, and they lost thousands of soldiers in Avdeevka. Friends, I just want to remind you, don't forget to like the video to support the growth of Ukrainian content. Ukraine is actively blocking pro-Russian YouTube channels today, so we need to promote genuine Ukrainian content. If this is your first time here, I encourage you to subscribe to stay updated with all events. Regarding comments under the videos, a problem still exists. I enable them, and after some time they may disable themselves. So, unfortunately, we have to wait for the issue to be sorted out. Now let's proceed to the situation at the front line and start with the direction of Bakhmut. Here, Ukrainian Armed Forces managed to fend off all Russian attacks in the new district area. Attacks in this direction have ceased today, but intense battles for Ivanivske and Klishivka still continue. Also, numerous attacks along the entire front line are not stopping. The invaders are destroying it completely. In the village of Kalinovka, soon there might be attempts to gain control over it. As of now, they are mobilizing additional reserves for launching new assaults.
In the Avdeevka direction, it is confirmed that the Ukrainian Armed Forces have moved up reserves and started counterattacks in the village of Ocheretin. A spokesperson for the ruSSia troop group reports that there's ongoing fighting in the village. As of now, there has been no improvement in a day. The front line remains the same, and there are ongoing battles in the Berdichi and Novokalinove area. The shelling continues both along the front line and in the background. To the south, the struggle continues for Taibova, and the situation there is still extremely difficult. In the direction of Maryanka, the occupiers are actively storming Krasnohorivka, trying to fully seize the city. Attacks on Hyorivka are also unending, and in the Novomikhaivka area, the occupiers are attempting to push towards the village of Konstantinivka. There were no changes in the front line during the day in this section, but the situation remains extremely difficult, and Russians carried out 16 attacks in a day. In the direction of Vuhledar, the occupiers failed to achieve success near the village of Vodyany. And today battles continue in the Staromayorsk and Urozhain areas. But here, the armed forces of Ukraine are successfully repelling all attacks, and the front line remains unchanged. In the Zaporizhzhia direction at present, there is only shelling without offensive actions. Here, as you remember, the Russians plan to regain control of the section of the front liberated during the counteroffensive of the armed forces of Ukraine and advance at a minimum to the populated area of Orikhiv. But as we can see, the Russians were able to advance up to 2 kilometers and it ended there. They suffered considerable losses and all offensive action stopped. And this indicates that their winter advance in this direction has failed. In the Kherson direction, attacks on the village of Krymki continue. And the right bank in the area of Krymki is also being heavily shelled to prevent the armed forces of Ukraine from transferring reserves to the left bank. But despite this, units of the armed forces of Ukraine managed to keep the bridgehead under their control, and they do not retreat. At the same time, it is reported that the United States has allegedly already secretly sent ATACMS to Ukraine. The US secretly sent long-range AKMS to Ukraine. Ukraine has already used them twice against Russian positions in occupied Ukraine. The US is sending more in a $1 billion package. Biden just gave the green light. And all this suggests that the aid has begun to increase significantly, meaning there will be more good news soon. In the Siversky direction, the occupiers are continually attacking Bilohorivka and are trying to break through to the excavation again today. But they have no success, and the front line remains unchanged. In the direction of Kremina, the occupiers have increased their activity. Today they are trying to storm Nevsky, Terny and Torska, and there is also fighting in the forest near Kremina. Over 18 attacks per day have been recorded here, and the fighting continues. In the direction of Svatova, the occupiers are continuing to try to break through in the Berestov area, but they are not achieving any success, and the front line remains unchanged as before. In the Kupyansk direction, only shelling continues, and the Russians do not carry out any attacks as before. So the situation remains the same. From Russian territory, the shelling of the border villages of Chernihiv, Sumy and Kharkiv regions does not stop. Last night, the occupiers struck Sumy, and today, Russian war correspondents are already shocked that Biden signed a new aid package for Ukraine and are already reporting that, according to their data, on May 9, the armed forces of Ukraine will destroy the Crimean bridge, and they are very scared of that. In general, the destruction of the occupiers on Ukrainian soil will soon take place, so there is a lot of good news ahead. Meanwhile, the Russians themselves, without knowing it, are helping to destroy the Russians. Dear Kuzbas residents, we are attacked by the Ukrainian special services every day, every minute. Since the beginning of the year, fraudsters have forced Kuzbas residents to transfer the accounts from which their salaries are paid. The United States itself will not destroy the occupiers. Today, mobilization continues in Ukraine, and the Minister of Defense and Deputy Prime Minister of Poland made a statement. Poland is ready to help Ukraine return men of military age. Defense Minister Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz. He stated that any support is possible if Kyiv will seek help before returning home those who may lose the right to stay in Poland after their passports expire. I think that many Poles are outraged when they see young Ukrainian men in hotels and cafes and hear how much effort we have to make to help Ukraine. Kosiniak-Kamysz said. What do you think about this? Write your opinion in the comments, if of course YouTube will allow you to do so. So far, problems with comments remain. In the Gaza Strip today, a large one continues. The number of attacks. Yesterday it was announced that the Israeli army is ready to storm Rafah, so it will soon be very hot here as well. In addition, it is reported that Hamas published a video of one of the captives, and despite being alive, his condition is very bad. From this we can conclude that the prisoners need to be rescued as soon as possible because they are in extremely poor conditions. We are waiting for how events will develop further, and this is all the information for now.